Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm kind of late in jumping on this trend, but I wanted to do a video about my eyeshadow palette collection, kind of like the eyeshadow palette tag video. But I did kind of switch up some of the questions and made them my own because I thought they would be more interesting and I don't want to repeat palettes. So if you like videos about makeup and you want to see all these different palettes and kind of my collection and what I would buy again, what my favorite is, what I don't really like, then I hope you'll keep watching and give this video a thumbs up. If this is the first video of mine that you're ever watching, I do make videos about fashion, lifestyle, and I do the occasional vlog, so I would love it if you subscribed. I always subscribe back, and let's just go ahead and dive right in. So I have 11 palettes in front of me here, and I'm going to start out with my go-to everyday most used palette, and that is the Sultry palette by Anastasia. As you can see, it's really beat up, and that's because I have gone through months where like this is the only palette I've used. I've literally used it every day. I don't use it as much now, but it's still like my absolute favorite palette. As you can see, it's destroyed. I've hit pan on a few of the shadows, and I definitely am going to pick up another one in the future. So this is my number one OG favorite palette. Next up, we have my smallest eyeshadow palette, which is one of these e.l.f. I'm not sure what it's called, bite-sized eyeshadow palettes, and this one is in Carnival Candy. And not gonna lie, I never really used this palette. I just bought it for a video. I thought it was pretty and intriguing though. I like the color combination, especially this blue color on the end. And these colors are really pretty and they blend out really nice, even the blue one, but it's just not a palette that I really reach for. And I think it is because it's so small and I don't have it with my other eyeshadow palettes. So I never really remembered to reach for this palette, but I think if I was going into the office and at work, it would be a perfect palette to just put in my work purse for like little touch-ups. Next, we have my biggest eyeshadow palette, which is really not that big. And that is just the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. I do think this palette's pretty underrated as well. I love it. It comes with this huge mirror here and a bunch of different colors. And it's a really versatile palette, but it's also my biggest palette, and that's why I'm putting it in this video. The most underrated palette I own, in my opinion, is this Too Faced Pineapple palette. First off, the packaging is gorgeous. It's so cute and fun, and it's like a perfect size for travel. And then you open it up, and the colors are just absolutely gorgeous. This gold shimmer is so pretty, as is this green shimmer, and this chocolate brown is like the perfect brown. It blends so beautifully. These shadows are long wearing, and they smell like pineapple. It smells heavenly. So I rarely ever see people on YouTube talk about this palette or do tutorials with this palette. And I think it's just a super underrated palette. And if you ever see it, if it goes on sale, I would definitely pick it up and give it a shot. My most recent palette that I purchased is the Lorac Pro palette. And I love this palette. This is definitely one of my favorites. The color scheme is really pretty. I love these cool toned colors, the grays, the purple, the silver shimmer. The white is really pretty for kind of highlighting your brow bone. So I just love these. This is great everyday eyeshadow as well as like a night out. So I'm super pleased with this palette. My brightest eyeshadow palette is the Anastasia Riviera palette. I believe they don't make this anymore, and I love this palette. I've used this a good bit. I love to wear this like going out or if I go to the beach. All the shimmers are gorgeous. Love that bright purple there. And the peaches down here are also nice for a little bit more of a subtle look, but this is definitely a palette I've loved using, and it's very bright, and it is a little bit tricky to blend, but I think that it still just wears really nicely, and it's probably, I would assume, flattering on most skin tones. Like, I'm very fair, and I don't think it's too harsh on me. My favorite limited edition palette is the Too Faced Extra Spicy Gingerbread palette, which came out last year. So cute, and I still use this palette even in the summer. It just has such a pretty selection of shades, and they're all super warm and pretty. I love making these like peachy oranges, like I have this on my eyes right now. And there's just so many different combinations that you can do with this palette. It also smells good. It smells like gingerbread. I will say that the shimmers are definitely lacking in this palette, but I feel like a lot of holiday palettes aren't that good of quality. You kind of just buy it for like the packaging and everything, and that's pretty well known in the makeup community. But I do like this palette, and I do find myself reaching for all of the matte shades a lot. An eyeshadow palette that you have fond memories with, that will definitely be the Soft Glam palette by Anastasia. This palette is gorgeous. It's a really great palette for fall and winter. Love the shimmers, love the matte colors. Like these browns down here are so beautiful. I wear these a lot. And I would just say like some of the good memories I've had with this palette. The first time I ever went on a date with my boyfriend, I wore these shadows, so that was special. And my friend's wedding, my best friend from college, she got married a while back, and I wore these shadows on that day too. So I feel like I have a lot of fond memories with this palette. A palette I would not purchase again is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbon palette. This palette is just really lacking in my opinion. These shades are just not that pigmented. They don't last super long. I know there's a video online about like the differences between Too Faced palettes and how usually these tin containers, the eyeshadow quality is better. Well, I just wasn't super impressed with this palette. You can't even really smell the chocolate that much. I will say I do like how they have like these like long pans for the transition shades. They give you more of the transition shade than say the black color, which I do think that's a good idea. But all in all, I really like never reach for this palette because it's just not pigmented enough. I think you can get such quality browns and pinks in a lot of these other palettes, so I definitely wouldn't repurchase this palette. My least used palette is definitely the Subculture palette by Anastasia. Fortunately, I did pick this up at TJ Maxx. Otherwise, it would be a total loss. I mean, this palette does look gorgeous. I mean, maybe I should try using this shimmer a little bit more up here, Adorn. But overall, like the colors I have used, which are these browns and this maroon, just really tough to blend. Again, it's definitely been said before on the internet that there's something like weird about the formulation of this shadow, but people were not lying. I like never reach for this palette, and I do like cool toned eyeshadows. I like them a lot. I love Anastasia's other palettes, but this is just a palette that I never reach for and really never use. Finally, we have my most expensive palette, which is kind of odd for this being the most expensive palette, and that is the Naked 3 palette by Urban Decay. I paid the full retail price for this, which was $54, making it my most expensive eyeshadow palette, which isn't even that expensive compared to some of the palettes these days, like the Natasha Denona palettes and the Pat McGrath palettes. But I will say it was a lot of money for like how little I use this palette. And look, this shade is popping out over here. Yeah, I mean, I did hit pan on like a few of these shades, so I guess I used it a decent bit, but I don't remember like this ever being a palette that I just loved or like continually reached for. I mean, I definitely haven't used this palette in like over a year. So that wraps up my eyeshadow palette collection. If you did the tag, let me know and I'll be sure to go and check out your video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye. I belong to you. I belong to you.